I still remember the day when everything changed. The moment I walked into the bathroom and saw something that would haunt me forever. My stepson in the most awkward position, washing himself. I didn't know what to think, what to feel, or how to handle the situation. I froze for a moment, wondering if I should just walk out and pretend like nothing happened. Or should I say something? Do something? Before I tell you what happened, let me give you some context. I've been married for a while now. My wife and I have a good relationship, and everything seemed pretty normal. But there's always that one thing, right? The thing that nobody sees coming. My stepson, let's call him Ethan, had been living with us for a few years. He was 17 at the time, almost an adult, but still under my roof, and I thought I knew him well enough. But what I walked into that day shattered that illusion. The problem wasn't just that I had caught Ethan in an uncomfortable situation, it was the uncertainty that followed. What was I supposed to do now? Should I address it? Should I pretend like nothing happened and just move on? It wasn't as simple as walking away and pretending I hadn't seen anything. I couldn't ignore the tension in the air, and I knew this awkwardness couldn't last forever. The silence in our house after that moment was unbearable. Ethan wasn't acting like himself. I could see it in his eyes. The guilt, the shame. He was avoiding me and even his mom. I tried to give him space, hoping he'd come to me when he was ready, but the silence stretched on. Each day that passed felt like another crack in the relationship we had built. And to be honest, it bothered me. I didn't want him to feel like he had to hide things from me, but at the same time, I didn't want to push him too hard. I also had to wonder, was I even the right person to talk to him about this? I wasn't his biological father. I loved him like my own son, but I wasn't sure if he would feel comfortable enough to open up to me about something this personal. Maybe he needed to talk to his mother instead. She was his mom, after all, and they'd always had a closer bond. But there was something in me that said it wasn't enough to just leave it up to her. He was living under our roof, and as much as it was her role as a mother to step in, I felt like it was also my role as a father figure, to help him navigate through difficult moments like this. He might not see it that way, but I couldn't just ignore what was happening. The more I thought about it, the more the uncertainty gnawed at me. I started questioning myself. Should I confront him? Would that make it worse? Or would it be better to let him come to me when he was ready? But what if he never felt ready? What if the distance between us only grew? I had to face the reality that this wasn't just about one awkward moment. It was about how I could be there for him, even when things got tough. I didn't want him to feel alienated or misunderstood, but I also didn't want to make him feel worse by bringing it up in a way that would make him feel judged. The question kept running through my mind. How do I help him without crossing a line? How do I support him when we've never had a conversation like this before? The more I thought about it, the more complicated it seemed. This wasn't just a matter of embarrassing moments. It was about guiding him through the challenges of growing up, of learning about his body, his emotions, and his relationships with others. And as much as I wanted to avoid making things awkward, I knew I couldn't stay silent forever. So, I had to make a decision. Do I let the silence stretch on, hoping it will resolve itself, or do I take action and step in to help him figure things out before it's too late? The moments that followed were weird. I didn't know what to say to Ethan. He clearly didn't expect me to walk in on him, and I didn't know if he wanted to talk about it. It was awkward. He avoided me for a few days, and every time I tried to bring it up casually, he changed the subject, like he was too ashamed or embarrassed. But the thing was, he wasn't just avoiding me. He was avoiding my wife, too. It was as if the whole house became tense, like we were all walking on eggshells. I didn't want to make it worse. I wasn't sure if I was even supposed to say anything to him. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that maybe he was struggling with something. I know it's not easy being a teenager, especially with everything going on at home, and maybe he needed someone to talk to. But then I also thought, should I help him with something this personal? Was that even my place? As the days went on, I noticed a shift. Ethan started isolating himself more. He'd stay locked up in his room for hours, barely talking to anyone. And if he did speak, it was short and distant. His relationship with his mother had always been close, but even she couldn't reach him. It felt like a wall was building up between us, and I wasn't sure how to break it down. I started thinking back to the time before we had this problem. Ethan had always seemed like a good kid, respectful, and never causing trouble. He was a little shy, but overall he seemed to handle himself well. But I didn't know what was going on inside his head. The whole situation made me realize that sometimes you can't just sit back and wait for someone to open up. Maybe I needed to push things a little. Maybe I had to step up and be the one to start that conversation. One afternoon, I found Ethan sitting in the kitchen staring blankly at his phone. This was my chance. I sat down across from him, unsure of what to say, but knowing that I couldn't let this go on any longer. It was time to break the silence. I took a deep breath. "Hey, Ethan, we need to talk about what happened the other day," I said, my voice steady, but I could feel the tension in my chest. He didn't look up at first, but after a few seconds, he sighed, clearly knowing that the moment had come. "I don't want to talk about it," he muttered. "It's embarrassing." And there it was, the elephant in the room. It wasn't just about what I had seen, it was about how he felt about it, how uncomfortable he was, how embarrassed he was, and how that embarrassment had likely built up into something bigger. "I know, man," I said gently, "I'm not here to judge you, but I want you to know that you don't have to hide things from me. If there's something you need help with, something that's bothering you, I'm here. We can talk about it. You don't have to carry it alone." Ethan looked at me, his eyes filled with confusion and a mix of relief. For the first time since the incident, I saw him relax. His shoulders dropped and he seemed like he was letting go of something heavy. I don't know how to talk about it," he confessed, almost whispering. "I feel like I messed up, like I can't control it. It's just, I don't know what to do with myself." That's when I realized this wasn't just a random moment. Ethan was going through something more complex than just the awkwardness of being caught. This was about growing up, about navigating feelings and desires that he hadn't quite figured out how to process. And if I could help him understand that, maybe we could both move past this weird moment. Over the next few weeks, Ethan and I talked more. It wasn't easy at first, and there were still awkward silences, but slowly we started to break down that wall. He opened up about the confusion he was feeling, about the pressure of being a teenager and the challenges he faced trying to figure out who he was. It wasn't about the moment in the bathroom anymore. It was about something deeper, something that needed time to unravel. In the end, I think the key to handling the situation was being there for him. It wasn't about confronting him or making him feel more uncomfortable. It was about being patient, understanding that he wasn't ready to talk about it at first, but when he was, I was there to listen. And by just showing up for him, even when it was awkward, I think we both learned something important. Sometimes just being a steady presence can make all the difference. If you've ever been in a situation where you didn't know how to handle an awkward moment, hit that subscribe button for more real stories.